Sometimes you need to explore the evil to have that impact. But that again ties to, it wasn't about the story. It wasn't about the characters. It was about the event. It was about the look and the experience that they went through as a group of men. No one man outshining the rest. YouTube was good. It's your boy Jody Joe. Welcome to Jody's Corner. First of all, I want to say I apologize for not being able to get this review out sooner. I had the Comic-Con festival and all of the trailers that came out and the discussions and the videos and the live reacted and the amazing, awesome things that was happening over Comic-Con weekend. I kind of got miscombobulated in all of the time. So I'm back on track. And since I'm not going to do a spoiler-free review, this is the spoiler review for Dunkirk. Okay, Dunkirk is another Christopher Nolan film. Let me tell you guys, if you guys don't know, I was hugely anticipating this film to be a success. Not only just a success, one of the best Nolan films. A war movie that I would probably hold dear to my heart. The last movie to take Wonder Woman out as the juggernaut for summer 2017. I want to let you guys know, if you don't, I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan. Christopher Nolan is by far the best director of our time, and he's the best director working today and has been for the last 6 or 7 years or so. So basically this is a true story that takes place during World War II, where they're going against the Nazis, and they're on the beaches of Dunkirk, and they're trying to get off. They have no way off. The enemy has sort of pushed them back all the way to the shoreline, and I guess in war, when you're pushed to the shore, that's pretty much it for you. You need to escape or you die. Because I remember the movie 300, directed by Zack Snyder. That was the main hit. When they pushed them to the beaches, that was basically it. So as far as battle tactics go, there were 400 people on the beach surrounded with really nowhere to go. That's the story of Dunkirk. It's a true story. I really enjoyed this film. The spectacle of this movie was amazing. Christopher Nolan is back at it again with his amazing camera work, with his beautiful cinematography, with his amazing IMAX huge widescreen angles, with his long focused steady shots, with his beautiful positioning on screen. I love everything about this movie when it comes to Christopher Nolan as the director. This film did the best that it could possibly do when it comes to directing and capturing the essence of war when it comes to World War II tactics that didn't involve story. I say that because after I watched the film Dunkirk, my attention was through and through, and I was riveted by some of the scenes. But after the film was over, I noticed that I didn't feel the way I thought I should have felt. I didn't feel like I experienced and I felt that longing connection and the pain and the heartache that those soldiers must have went through on the beaches of Dunkirk. I didn't feel it, and I was mad at myself that I didn't feel it. And it wasn't because of me, because I'm a very emotional person. I was emotional from the trailer reactions. The trailer reactions had me emotional, thinking about the agony that those soldiers experienced, the stories that they must have had, the things that they went through, the stories of the people that were actually home who decided to get their boats and to go save those soldiers. My imagination ran with that, and it made me feel so bad for those soldiers, and I was waiting for this film to experience that. And as soon as I saw that this film was not written, as soon as I saw this film was not only directed by Christopher Nolan, it was also written by him, I believe that's where the film loses its ground. I really admire Christopher Nolan, the director. He is not as good as a writer as he is a director, not even close. Because Christopher Nolan, once I saw that he wrote the story, and I know he's a great writer, but his writing capabilities, I believe, did not match his directing capabilities. I say that because this film was only a little over an hour and a half long. I feel like Christopher Nolan wanted to tell this story so much that he wanted to take it upon himself to tell and control this story from beginning to end. And because he actually wrote and directed this, I realized that I think Christopher Nolan relied too much on his directing prowess to know that he would be able to get his message across with his directing powers, and he didn't have to have much detail on the writing front with the script. And I believe that's where it fell, because my overall issue with this film is this: I understand you wrote. I understand that he catered his writing to his directing. Some people will call that arrogant. Some people will call it, and that's fine because he deserves it. He's the best director out. But I believe this was his downfall here, and I believe I felt it in the film. If any other accomplished writer who knows of Dunkirk, who has screenplay, I feel like almost anybody else could have written the script and they would have did a better job than what Nolan did. I don't mean to say it that way, but I know that Nolan chose not to tell stories about characters that we're following. We didn't know nothing about any of these characters. They had no identity, they had no ground, they had no roots. They were just soldiers. And I understand that he was trying to visualize us about the event of Dunkirk, and he didn't want us to get in the way with characters. Oh, you know, where characters tell their story about where they're from, about how they live their lives, what they used to be when they weren't in war. And I know he wanted to make it all about the event. But what I think about Dunkirk is because of those stories. It's those stories of those soldiers that make my heart feel for them. You took away the essence of why war is tragic. And they're not just blank-faced people. They're actually people who have lives and have been through experiences. And Nolan chose not to put the attention on the experiences of the characters, but of the whole war itself. No one shined in this film. It was, the shining point was the war itself, and that was a mistake, because what makes war so tragic and so heartfelt is because we care about these characters. We care about the people. People have lives, and when they lose their lives because we care, we hurt and we feel for it. Those people that were in this film, they were gone, they died, some of them survived, but even though some of them made it to the end of the film, there was no feel of triumph, because he chose not to let me know who these characters are. He chose not to explore them. He took it away from us to understand what they were going through beyond what we saw with directing from Christopher Nolan. Not about the psyche and the personality of each individual character that he's showing us. That was a negative for me. Some of the people that chose to, this is a true story, some people chose to not wait for the British to send ships slowly because they had some of their forces elsewhere. So they basically left those 400 soldiers on the beaches to die, for the most part. Some blacksmith, some flour salesmen, some bakeries, they all decided, we're not going to wait here and let our soldiers die at Dunkirk. We're going to load up, empty our boats, and we're going to sail, and we're going to rescue our soldiers. Now, there was a part where that happened. We seen it in the trailers. Where are you going? We're going to Dunkirk. We can't go there, we'll die. There's no turning back, son. That man in his boat with his sons, this is a spoiler review, what am I talking about? That man who took his sons to go to Dunkirk, yo, that arc could have been so emotional and impactful if they actually showed us them on land. It showed us the lives they lived before this war, before they decided to go out. Like it shows his son being this kid who wants to do right, and the other son who doesn't want to do right, and it talks about war stories of the father. It just explores that family. If they explored that family and a couple of other ones on land, their lives without going to Dunkirk, and then it shows that sacrifice of them giving up their lives to go to Dunkirk. That means we've been invested in these people, and we would have yearned for them to be successful. We would have wanted them to succeed, and as they were going to Dunkirk, we would have rooted for them. Instead, this man's son got knocked downstairs. He got his head wounded when he fell by one of the soldiers he picked up from a stray boat. That scene didn't feel natural to me. It felt empty. It felt so empty. The actor who played the Scarecrow in Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, he was the one that got picked up, and he knocked the fisherman's son down the stairs, and he died. But you know what? I didn't care that he died. And it's not because I'm a bad person. I just don't care that he died because he was a plot device. There was no depth to that kid. There was no depth to that father. Sure, the father said, oh, that's another one. He was looking at the planes go by. Oh, there's another one. There's another one. But just a few lines of history about this character, or show flashbacks of him at war, his father, him as a child looking at his father go, or him telling a story to his sons about war. None of that was here. It was just people coming to save people, and I understand, but it just, the human element was missing to me. Even though all these people came, you know, people serving the soldiers donuts and crumpets, and some blacksmiths came. You see the soldiers getting saved. It was nice to see. Thank you, Nolan, for that. It was very beautiful to see. It was, but I didn't feel it. And I didn't feel it because you chose not to explore the characters themselves, the lives they lead, the state that they were going through emotionally and mentally. You didn't explore them. And I understand why you chose to do that, but that was a mistake. Aside from that, I'm just trying to let you guys know problems that I had with this film, and how this film could have been so much better had he chose to do that, had he chose to show us these characters and grow these characters, instead of just put the characters as a side piece and put the main event, just the event of Dunkirk. I just think that was a terrible mistake. Also, there was a scene where the I guess you could call him the lead actor, who we saw in the first scene, was running through the streets and he got shot at by Germans. We never seen the Germans. Would have been nice to see them, but I understand that maybe there's a little bias there. Maybe you didn't want to show them in your film, maybe. But even though you don't agree with the Nazi regime, which I don't believe most of us don't, I hate it, but that's history. I think that needed to be shown. These terrible men doing these cruel and disgusting things to these Frenchmen at Dunkirk. Sometimes you need to explore the evil to have that impact. But that again ties to, it wasn't about the story, it wasn't about the characters, it was about the event. It was about the look and the experience that they went through as a group of men. No one man outshining the rest. You know what I'm saying? And it basically, in Nolan's film, he didn't really do a great job at letting us know how surrounded they were. They told us that they were surrounded. They showed the flyers that they were surrounded, but we never got that visual representation that they were truly surrounded. Because the boy was running through the streets and he was getting shot at, and then he decided to go through some buildings, and then he saw his mates, the other soldiers, who had a barricade. So the soldiers couldn't make it to the beaches. The Nazis couldn't make it to the beaches because they had it barricaded. So I asked, why didn't the soldiers on the beach just try to push back into the city rather than sit on the beach and get bombed? You feel what I'm saying? I'm not talking about the real true event. I'm talking about the way Nolan depicted it in this film. They're on the beach like sitting ducks getting bombed. There was a scene where they were in formation like ants. They saw a plane coming to drop bombs. They scrambled, got bombed, some died, and they went right back in formation for boats that weren't there. I mean, my God, that's what you chose to show them like that? You could have had them all pushed forward in the city. The city was empty. I believe those 400,000 soldiers, if they wanted to go into the city, they could have had better cover in the buildings and whatnot, not just sitting out on the beach just to get bombed like that. That really had me like, I'm not sure I buy that. If soldiers are really out there for their lives and sitting on sand, they're not going to sit on sand in the open to get bombed if there's buildings right there where there's other soldiers at. And it never showed the German forces just closing in. It never showed the German perspective about them talking about showing them, oh, we have them surrounded. This is showing visually on a map, this is where they're at, and here's the German presence to let us know and feel that they're really just crammed and just completely secluded on all areas. I mentioned that Nolan action directing is not his forte. But he did a good job at exploring scenes and showing shots that were truly breathtaking and amazing. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, regardless about how you feel about the man I'm gonna mention, I believe this film would have been way better if Mel Gibson directed it. Regardless of the stupid trash way he thinks, Mel Gibson as an action director is second to none. You feel what I'm saying? I really like this film. This film is really good. I appreciate this film. The shots were great. Tom Hardy is a superstar. I love Tom Hardy. Even though he barely had any dialogue, he barely had anything that made him stand out, he actually got a lot of camera time from Nolan. And the shots that he got while in the air, those were the best shots in this whole film to me. Especially after he got shot, after he ran out of gas, and he was just hovering. You feel what I'm saying? He was just hovering. And then the last time when the ship was going to attack the people, but then here comes Tom Hardy to blow the ship up just in the nick of time. The soldiers are cheering, and Tom Hardy does the thing, and he just lands on, didn't crash, he lands on the sand. It was a shot of him just floating, and it showed the background and the horizon. It was beautiful. This is what Nolan does. But there was something missing, and I believe it was because he chose not to go for the element of the characters, and that made it feel empty to me. With all of that, still a good film. Do I recommend that you guys go see it? I say yes, on the simple fact that there's a lot of people, including myself, who was not educated on what they went through in Dunkirk. You know, we as Americans, we think that, you know, World War II was only us. There was no other countries involved, and, you know, that's not really the case. I believe for education factors, you should all go see Dunkirk, just to experience that. I believe you should all go see it just to see the directing prowess of the great Christopher Nolan. Some of the beautiful, amazing shots that he gets. On that alone is why I think you should go see Dunkirk. And that's why I'm going to recommend you go see Dunkirk. But all in all, it's one of my least favorite Christopher Nolan movies. This is one of my least favorite. But my least favorite Christopher Nolan movie is still better than a lot of other directors' best films. And what's that to say about the great Christopher Nolan? Thank you, Christopher Nolan, very much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm going to give Dunkirk a B. I give it that B. It's dope. It's tight. Just wish there was more there. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's it for me. Put down in the comment section what you guys think. I'm sorry for getting this review late. I usually always get the reviews out on Friday. We'll be back on track next time for Atomic Blonde. All right, thank you very much for watching Jody's Corner. Remember to subscribe if you like that real content and honest opinions. I'm Jody Joe, and I'm out this thing, man. Deuces.